We bring the sacrifice of praise into the house of the Lord. We bring the sacrifice of praise into the house of the Lord. And we offer up to you the sacrifices of thanksgiving. And we offer up to you
It's always a pleasure to be able to stand in the pulpit whenever we have a guest speaker, to be able to introduce them and talk to you about how they love the Lord and how they desire to serve Him. It's even more special when that person that's going to be sharing the word is your son. And I remember last year when Greg shared, I was probably just beaming up here, just being able to invite Greg to come and share the word. And so I feel so much the same today. Brandon came to me early this week, so it's only been in the last few days, and he said, "Dad, I have something that the Lord has really laid on my heart. I'd like to preach. I'd like to share." And so I said, "Well, the school year is coming upon us, and you're going to be going back to Peterborough, so no better time than the present. How about this Sunday?" Talk about being put on the spot. And he said, "Yeah, he's ready." And so we are incredibly proud of Wanda and I, of our three boys. Greg, who's now living in Halifax, and we continue to correspond with him. And Brandon, who is going back to Peterborough. He has taken 2 years at Masters in theological training. He's now transferring to Fleming and is going to be taking training in mental health and addiction counseling services. Tremendously important field of education and training in this day and age. So he's going to be starting that this coming fall, just in a couple of weeks. Taylor also is returning back to Fleming to take his second year in accounting. And it's a real privilege for me to be able to invite Brandon to the pulpit and invite him to come and share the Word of God and what God has laid on your heart. Let's give him a warm welcome this morning.
Is my mic on? Is it on? The green light should be on my mic. Oh, there you go. I can hear myself. Okay. So, hello. So, I'd just like to give a description of why I decided to switch from Masters to Fleming. So, I was literally walking down the street in Peterborough just after a class. It was like around 9 o'clock at night. It was a really late class. And just walking home, I literally just had this moment. God was like, "What am I doing here?" But I mean, not to say that Masters was a great experience, and it was. And He placed it on my heart. It's been a long time that I've had it on my heart for mental health because I suffer with it myself. So it gave me this passion to actually help people who are dealing with it. So with the training in Fleming that I'm going to be in 2 years, along with the two other years in training I was at Masters, I'm planning to go back to Masters to get my diploma. I'm hoping in the next few years, or maybe in a decade or so, that I'm hoping to start my own kind of organization that goes in churches, goes in schools, goes in prisons, that talks about mental health, but in a more Christian perspective. Because I honestly don't see a lot of Christian speakers or preachers in that matter even talk about mental health. And I think it's not just in the youth demographic that it needs help in, but everybody does. So I think it needs a voice, but also needs a Christian voice in those areas that I really want to go into. And this is kind of my test run of it, because I'll be doing this a lot if I'm going in the organization or something, so might as well get used to it. So, in that second year of Bible college, I took a course known as homiletics, which is the study of preaching and how to present, write, and edit created sermons. I presented 2 of them throughout the course of the semester, and this is my second one. It did pretty well besides the length. It was a little short. It was about 15 minutes. But with the opportunity to present here, I decided to give it more of a personal spin, because I assume that a lot of you don't really know me all that well, because I don't really talk to you all that much. Because I'm more into talking to the youth and stuff like that. That's why you see me everywhere, either talking over to Taylor over there, saying praise the Lord over to Grace for no reason, and talking with the twins, obviously. And of course, we had the all-nighter last night, so that was a lot of fun. I got to sleep till 4, but wait, so who didn't actually fall asleep by the all-nighter? Okay, so the twins, and I think Will and them didn't fall asleep either. I went to sleep till 4, and I got the excuse because I was going to stay up all night, but my dad was like, "You need to have sleep." So I was like, sounds good. So I've decided to take a more personal spin with this sermon, and we're actually going to be going with the text. We're going to be going into Psalm 3. So hopefully this thing will work. Please? Maybe click there. Turn it around. It doesn't seem to be working. So, it worked. Hey, look at that. Okay. So, we're going to be looking into Psalm 3. So, Lord, how many are my foes? How many rise up against me? Many are saying of me, God will not deliver him. But you, Lord, are a shield around me, my glory, the one who lifts my head high. I call out to the Lord, and he answers me from his holy mountain. I lie down and sleep. I wake again because the Lord sustains me. I will not fear, though tens of thousands assail me on every side. Arise, Lord, deliver me, my God. Strike all the enemies on the jaw. Break the teeth of the wicked. From the Lord comes deliverance. May your blessing be on your people. So, this is a great verse, but you may be wondering, this is from David's perspective. You're probably wondering, why is he so fearful of these apparent tens of thousands assailing him? So, in order to see the context of that, we're going to be going into 2 Samuel chapter 15 to 18. And it's quite extensive, like it's going to take a while, but I managed to boil it down to the essential portions as to what is going on. So, hopefully this will work again. Turn it around. Perfect. So, let's get the perspective. So, David is the king of Israel. Seems fine, everything's all good. And you also have David's son, who is, I guess, just like an average citizen. Maybe he's like a servant, I don't know. But if we look into 2 Samuel, he's actually conspiring something. He's doing a little bit of a scheme to get David off of the throne. So, we're going to be looking into, let's turn that around again. I love technology, it's my favorite. There we go. So, this is the start of the scheme, so pay attention. In the course of time, Absalom provided himself with a chariot and horses with 50 men to run ahead of him. He would get up early and stand by the side of the road leading to the city gate. Whenever anyone came with a complaint to be placed before the king for a decision, Absalom would call out to him, "What town are you from?" He would answer, "Your servant is from one of the tribes of Israel." Then Absalom would say to him, "Look, your claims are valid and proper, but there is no representative of the king to hear you." And Absalom would add, "If only there were an appointed judge in the land, then everyone who has a complaint or case could come to me, and I would see they receive justice." So, to give you more perspective, say that Ken over there and that door, that's the gates in the kingdom of Israel. So, congratulations, Ken. You are now the gatekeeper of Israel. So, the gatekeepers would stand over here, and I would say probably about 3 or 4 kilometers down, Absalom and his men would stand around right here. It's like 5 steps, but imagine it's like 5 kilometers. So, he would wait there. So, the first, the kingdom Israel, citizens, the first people they would see is not the gatekeepers, but Absalom. And if whenever they come with a complaint, he would just be like, "Look, I'm sorry, I would love to help you, your claims are great, but imagine I was judge, and I could take your claims and actually bring justice, actually do something about it." So, with this, he actually gained quite a following. He would do this, I would imagine he'd do this for a long time. He did this, I think it says in 2 Samuel that he did this for 4 years. He would wake up, get his men, get his chariot and his horse, wait there, and whenever someone would come by with a complaint or just simply to talk, he would simply just see them first and talk to them. And if there was any complaints, he would win them over. And if we go further into verses 5 and 6, it says, "Also, whenever anyone approached him to bow down before him, Absalom would reach out his hand, take hold of him, and kiss him." Absalom behaved in this way towards all the Israelites who came to the king asking for justice. So he stole the hearts of the people of Israel. So not only would he stand early so people would come in, but he would be a master manipulator. He would just give them utmost respect So that way he could win them over and lead them to like the rebellion that would eventually lead to the going in of Israel and trying to take David off the throne. So, oh, look at that. And let's see how it works. There we go. So, that leads us back to Psalm 3. So, this was written after there was apparently about thousands of people in this rebellion. He gained such a following that there was about 1,000, maybe around 700 people. And, of course, David is really worried and panicked because you're randomly just sitting on your throne one day, things are going well, and all of a sudden you hear from one of your servants that the massive mob of people are coming to get you. Not to just take you off the throne, not to just take you off the throne, but possibly even kill you. So, being frightful, he ran away into a cave. Please, come on. There we go, one more. So, not only did he run away into like the woods or anything, he ran into a cave, and it was deep. He could go as far as he could, away from civilization, away from anybody, just so he could not be found. So, just picture this. Just like imagine being in David's shoes. You're randomly just sitting down, everything's going fine, then all of a sudden you hear that a massive mob's coming after you. You run into the cave for safety, and I would just be fearing for my life. Knowing me, I would just be like, where do I run to next? Where do I go? Where do I seek shelter? What do I do at this point? But David didn't fear. He did fear, but he decided to be hopeful and know that God got him covered. So, it says in Psalm 3 that, Lord, you are a shield around me. Break the jaw of the enemies that assail me. He's not thinking of what am I going to do next? God, why'd you put me in this situation? He's not mad at God. He's hopeful. And he's hoping for the best, and he's like, God, you're protecting me. You are my shield. You're here. You know exactly what to do, and I trust you. So, we're going to circle around to this later. And hopefully there we go. So, this comes the more personal aspect of the sermon, kind of like my testimony, and we'll come back to Psalm 3 afterwards. So, each of these schools here represents a different phase of my life. So, if you want to know what the life of a pastor's kid is, this is the time. So, the first one right here is Gold River, I think it says something else, but it's just Gold River Elementary School, which I believe is now closed. So at that time, we were living in, Gold River obviously, but if I can get to the slide, if it will work. Just switch to the next slide. There we go. So, this was our parsonage. I couldn't get a very good picture of it because for some reason they don't like taking pictures of their parsonage. So, if you were to look on the side of this, like a side angle, the church and the house are combined as one big house. So, I remember waking up, even though it was 5 minutes before service, I would wake up in my pajamas, and then I would go downstairs, get changed, and a minute to spare, I would be sitting in the pew. It was so easy. And I also remember that me and my older brother Greg, when there was nobody there, often during the weekdays, we would go into the sanctuary, move the pews around, and play mini sticks on the carpet. And the back door and this communion table were the nets. We didn't have any goalies because there was only the two of us, but it was fun anyways. So we even had our own league and had our own teams. We were that serious about it. I also remember That's a massive parking lot. We had a massive snowstorm called White Juan. It was about 2001, 2002. And there was a massive mound of snow that was probably about 90 to 100 centimeters tall. And all three of us would go on the very tippy top and just slide down after the snowstorm. It was so much fun. And I also remember, so back over there on the hill, me and Taylor thought it was a great idea to go down tobogganing down it. But the problem is it's covered in trees, and all of them are like spiny. So Taylor decided to give it a go, and only 30 centimeters down, he cut himself in the face off the sled. I just remember that for some reason. I don't understand why. But needless to say, it was a great time. But I also remember, if we go back to, can you go back to the school slides again? Go back a slide. I also remember there was this bully at the school, and his name was Logan. And there was also another one named Bailey, but I don't really remember all that he did to me. But anyways, there was this bully named Logan. This is all I remember. And every day, I would just go outside, and he was there just waiting to pick on me. And it didn't make a great school experience at all. I would literally just go on the swing sets, just by myself, and he would literally just come up to me and start nagging me on, the whole recess, the whole lunchtime, the entire time. And this happened from grade primary to grade 4. He never stopped. So I was thankful to know that we were moving. And we moved again to now Windsor Forks Elementary School. And needless to say, the bullying got worse. And it became a point where I became extremely sensitive. So anything you would say to me that I would think is an insult, I would cry a lot. And it transferred over to school. If I didn't do good on my grades, I would cry. And then it also gave me this big fear of the weather, in particular the wind, because I was always fearful that the wind was so strong it was going to knock down our house. I was fearful of the weather so much that I would look at the radar all the time and hoping that a storm would not come, hoping that a thunderstorm would not come by, because I would be scared out of my mind. It made me that paranoid. And it got to the point where I actually had to take therapy and mental health counseling. I don't remember any of the sessions all that well, but for some reason, it helped me so much and it completely changed my life. And I guess that's where, I don't know, secretly, that's probably where I think is mental health is my forte, because I know that it works. Because I was around 8 years old, but I remember being in the office. I don't remember anything it said, but I just remember it just working. Because after that, I was a completely different kid. I was not even sensitive anymore. I actually love thunderstorms now. And the craziest thing ever is, so there was this bully at the school who was named Troy. And there was about 2 years, it was about grade 5, that he was bullying me constantly also. And there was even a point where he threw me in the dumpster. Yep. I don't think my dad knows about that, but I didn't tell anybody. So, after all of this therapy, and after all of this help, my bully became my best friend. We actually hung out all the time. We would, at recess, we would go play soccer, we'd go swing on the swing sets, we would trade Pokemon cards, that was a thing back then. And when class was going on, we had our Game Boys, so my dad doesn't know about this either. But we would actually take our Game Boys while class was going on and play under the desk so no one could see us. So I was a bad kid back then. But anyways, it was a fun time at the end of it all. But I was still excited that we were moving again. It's the third time now, keep track. And now we are at Lockport Regional High School. Now the town is only 400 people. The school, the high school, is only 120, and the elementary school is about 60 to 80 kids. So with that small of a place, it gets quite boring. And I find it funny when I came here the first time to Renfrew, and people considered this a very small town. And I was like, you've never seen what I've gone through. But with this small of a town, me and my friends found a lot to do. Our youth group was about 50 kids. So considering that the high school is only 120 kids, we almost had half of the entire high school coming to our youth group. And the youth groups were amazing. We would come to our church, and there was also another church that our other pastor was pastoring, and we would transfer back and forth, and we would do events, and we'd do all-nighters just like we did. We would go out to like conventions. We even had, surprisingly, this is actually quite amazing that no school does this now, but the pastor or the principal of the high school actually allowed us to have conventions in the high school where we can bring Christian bands and a speaker, and it was open to the public. Anyone could come. And just imagining that now is insane. So with that also, I had my group of friends, obviously. We had 10 other friends that would sleep over in our house. It was basically like a small trailer home. It was very crammed, but it was fun anyways. We live right next to a beach, so at 4 a.m. in the morning, we would just walk down to the beach for no reason, just to get away from the house. And also, even later in the night, we would just get in cars and play car tag. Not a lot of the folks liked that a lot, so we stopped doing it, but it was a fun time anyways. And then I found out that we were moving again. And of course, in these time spans, I was excited that we were moving, but this time I was not. Because I consider this high school, this point in my life, to be the best years of my life. Like the most fun times, because I had so many friends. There was no bullying to speak of. The youth group was strong. I had something to do every day that was fun. And now that's all gone. Not to mention, I'm not just moving from another town to another town in Nova Scotia. I'm moving to a completely different province. And my thoughts were, I'm never going to see them again. Of course, that's changed, and I've actually gone to see them a couple times, but to a 16 to 17-year-old kid, and just thinking about it's like, I'll never see them again, it really messes with you. So now we're at RCI, where I went to for 2 years, and let's just say that it wasn't the greatest time in my life, because I was still thinking, it's like, why did we have to move again? Like, why did we have to do this? Because I couldn't really form much friendships in RCI until like the very last years, and I was so lost and I didn't know what to do, so I would actually get into relationships that were extremely toxic. I mean, like girlfriend-boyfriend relationships. Like nothing crazy happened, like I didn't do anything that was against the Bible, but let's just, like, I would put myself in those situations, and it was one of them I was in was extremely verbally abusive. I was nagged and constantly mocked all the time. And now that I think about it, I ask myself, why did I decide to go through that? And I knew the reason why is because I didn't have any friends at that point. And this is the only source of friendship that I have. And even though it's toxic, it's the only one I have. So I might as well stick with it. And it got to a point where it came to a head with this girl I was with. And I literally, if you haven't noticed, all of this time, from Gold River to Windsor Forks to Lockport to Renfrew, God wasn't in the picture at all. I didn't even have a thought of actually just sitting down and just praying or sitting down reading the Bible or anything. I thought, I'll just do this by myself, and it doesn't work. And after all this time, I was about 17 years old, so around 11 years, for the first time ever, in my opinion, I actually sat down and prayed. And I said, God, this is going to suck because she's going to be really mad at me once I break up with her. But if you just give me peace and give me like hope and give me joy after this, that would be incredible, because I'm already at an all-time low right now, and I really don't want to go lower. And God answered my prayer. And I consider that to be the turning point in my life, and that's the reason why I'm here now. Because after that point, we started the youth worship team. So it was me, Emily, there was Greg, and there was Taylor and Nate at the sound, and we just did worship. We had this thought for a while, and then Emily came along and actually put it into fruition. And that massively changed my life because I love singing. So that was a positive influence in my life. And I actually started to pray regularly because after that instance, it's like, okay, this works. So I got to keep going. And then Masters came around. I went to Masters for 2 years. And those were amazing times as well. Hard times as well because it's college and there's exams and all of that. But it was still an amazing time nonetheless. And to circle back to Psalm 3, David said, Lord, you are a shield around me. David knew that he got him covered. He was fine. But I didn't know that. I thought I could do this all by myself. I could deal with the bullying by myself. I could deal with the struggle of moving by myself. I could deal with these toxic relationships by myself. And all of those times, it was a fail, fail, fail. Every single time. Because God wasn't in the picture. One more. Switch to the next slide. There we go. I never trusted God with all these things because I simply thought I could just do it myself. And after this moment of just prayer, and even as I wrote this sermon about a couple months ago, I realized that God was with me the entire time, but I just never had the motive or the thought to actually go to Him. Because I do know that God did help me throughout these course of these years, because I may not be here today without Him guiding me throughout my life, because I believe He gifted me with the counseling because it changed my life. Now that I look upon it, He gifted me with that therapy, because after that, it completely changed my life. And I believe He gifted me even though all of these spots, all of these schools I was into were sometimes toxic, I still like to think about the good times, but it also made me into the person I am now. And it's given me this motive and it's giving me this passion to help people with mental health, because bullying, of course, leads to depression and anxiety. Because when you're bullied all the time, it always seems like you're not good enough, you're not strong enough, and bullying is still quite frequent in schools today. It's not as talked about as much anymore, but it's still quite frequent. So all of these experiences, I can actually relay that to people who are dealing with mental health. I can actually say it's like, I've gone through that myself, and this is how I dealt with it. So my moral of my message today is, whatever you're going through, whether it's through financial, whether it's through marital, whether it's through relational with friends or anybody, you need to trust in God and know that He's got you covered. That He's got a shield around you, and that He's going to protect you regardless of what's happening in your life. And don't think that you can take all this on alone, because you can't. The world is a terrible place. You've seen in the news, it's getting worse. And one man cannot do it, and it needs help. We can't do this by ourselves, and as a group, we need God to be a focal point in our lives, and to let God be the counselor of our lives, and know that He's got us covered. So that's all I really had to share. I really thank you for allowing me to present and actually share my testimony, because I've not really gone around to talk with you all that much, and I sincerely apologize for that, because actually when I got up on the stage, I was actually quite nervous, but once I started talking and went around and looked at everybody, I never felt so comfortable. And it's amazing because I've never really felt all that home in a couple of churches in a long time. And it's amazing that I love being here. I love walking into this church and just being able to, like, whether it's youth group or even just coming to the service, it makes me feel happy. And I've never felt that before, and it's amazing. And I used to be such a downer, because I would always ask Dad, it's like, do I have to go to church today? Like, can I just sleep, or can I play video games or something? But now it's to the point where it's like, I just love being here. And whether it's hanging with the youth or talking with you guys, it always makes me feel home. So thank you for letting me share my sermon. And I would love to do this again if you were willing me to.